There are moments in life when someone enters your world, and something about their presence feels different. Not louder, not dramatic, simply different. You can't always explain it, but you can feel it. A shift in the way they speak, the way they react, the way they respond to even the smallest things. Human behavior is a quiet storyteller. It reveals truths that the mouth is not brave enough to say. And when someone brings unhealthy patterns into your life, those patterns rarely arrive with warning signs. They come disguised as charm, intensity, mystery, or even vulnerability. Today, we're going to explore the psychology behind those subtle signals. Not to judge anyone, not to label anyone, but to help you understand yourself, your boundaries, and the people you allow into the closest parts of your life. Because the quality of your relationships shapes the quality of your future. And the more you understand emotional patterns, the safer and stronger your inner world becomes. It often starts with a reflex so familiar, you might mistake it for honesty. The reflex of blame. There are people who rarely, if ever, take responsibility for their actions. When something goes wrong, they point outward. When conflict appears, they turn themselves into the innocent bystander. When correction is needed, they slip into a story where they are always misunderstood, always mistreated, always the one who had no choice. At first, you might feel sympathy. Their stories may be emotional, convincing, even heartbreaking. But as time passes, you notice a pattern. No matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, they are never the one who contributed to the problem. Everyone else becomes the cause. Everyone else becomes the villain. And without realizing it, you begin carrying guilt that was never yours to hold. This isn't about judging someone's struggles. It's about recognizing when a pattern becomes a burden. A relationship, any kind, cannot survive when one person refuses to look inward. Growth requires accountability. Healing requires acknowledgement. Connection requires honesty. When someone is committed to being the victim in every story, they cannot show up for you in a healthy way because they are not yet able to show up for themselves. Then comes the second pattern, and it reveals itself quickly if you're paying attention. The presence of emotional games, not playful teasing, not light-hearted flirting, but uncertainty created on purpose. Mixed signals, hot one day, distant the next, warm in private, cold in public, affectionate when they want something, detached when you need clarity. These kinds of games are not signs of mystery or passion. They are signs of insecurity and emotional immaturity. People who feel unsafe within themselves often create confusion around others, not because they are cruel, but because they do not know how to connect without fear. And if you ignore the early discomfort, the rest of the relationship becomes a cycle of guessing, waiting, hoping, and questioning your own worth. You deserve better than uncertainty disguised as interest. You deserve connection that doesn't leave you doubting your value. Sometimes, unhealthy patterns come from unhealed wounds, trauma left untouched, pain that was never processed, emotions buried so deeply that they spill out in ways the person doesn't recognize. It is important to understand this, but it is equally important to remember this. You are not responsible for fixing wounds you did not create. You cannot heal someone who refuses to face their own reflection. You cannot love someone into emotional maturity. You can be compassionate. You can be supportive. But you cannot sacrifice your own stability, hoping someone will one day grow into the person you need. Growth is a personal journey, and those who refuse to walk it will unintentionally pull others into their emotional storms. Another sign appears quietly, almost invisibly at first. Success begins to feel like tension. Your achievements, big or small, don't bring joy to the person you're with. Instead, they create distance. Healthy relationships celebrate growth. Healthy people feel inspired by your progress. But someone operating from insecurity may respond differently. Your wins become reminders of their fears. Your progress becomes a threat instead of something to celebrate. They may downplay your achievements, or grow silent when you share something meaningful, or turn your moment of joy into a moment of comparison suddenly. Your success doesn't feel like a shared victory. It feels like an emotional divide. This pattern doesn't always appear dramatic. Often, it begins with subtle reactions, a forced smile, a distant tone, a shift in the atmosphere when you talk about something that excites you. Pay attention to that shift. It reveals more than words ever will, and then, without warning, jealousy may begin weaving itself into the spaces between you. Not the harmless kind, not the natural kind that arises from care, but the kind that stems from fear, mistrust, and insecurity. It might appear as suspicion without cause, questions that feel more like accusations, discomfort when you mention people you interact with, or assumptions that have no foundation in reality. Jealousy, when left unexamined, becomes a shadow that follows every conversation, every friendship, every moment of independence. It restricts, it controls, it suffocates connection instead of strengthening it. This leads into another pattern, one of the most difficult to face. Control. It doesn't always look harsh. Sometimes it arrives disguised as concern. Why are you going there? Why do you need to talk to them? Why didn't you respond sooner? Other times, it shows up through rules, expectations, or emotional pressure. Small freedoms begin to shrink. Personal space becomes monitored. Decisions feel less like choices and more like obligations. Control rarely starts big. It grows slowly, quietly, until you look back and realize how much of yourself you've given up trying to maintain peace. And then, there is the pattern that appears in material form. The pattern of transactional affection. People are not always aware when they fall into it. Sometimes, they learned it from environments where love had conditions, where attention was earned through giving, providing, or sacrificing. But no healthy bond should ever require payment, emotional, financial, or otherwise. When someone seeks connection only when there's something to gain, when affection appears only when benefits appear, when your value in their life is measured by what you can provide, you are not being seen as a human being. You are being seen as a resource. Your worth has never depended on what you can offer someone. Your worth exists simply because you exist. As you move through life, you will meet people with unhealed wounds, insecurities, fears, and patterns they may not recognize. You will meet people who bring light and people who bring lessons. And both are important. Both shape your understanding of yourself. Both help you learn who you are and who you refuse to become. But here is the truth that matters most. You are not obligated to stay in unhealthy places just because you understand why someone behaves the way they do. Compassion is not the same as self-sacrifice. Empathy is not the same as endurance. You can care about someone's struggles and still choose peace. You can see their pain and still protect your own heart. You can wish them healing and still walk away if the environment hurts you. Healing begins when honesty begins. Growth begins when accountability begins. And healthy love, in any form, begins when two people can see themselves clearly. So take a moment, breathe into your awareness, and reflect on the relationships in your life. Notice who celebrates your wins. Notice who listens without judgment. Notice who respects your boundaries, your time, your energy. Notice who makes you feel centered, grounded, and safe to be your full self. Life becomes brighter when you choose people who choose growth. Life becomes peaceful when you connect with those who carry responsibility for their actions. Life becomes meaningful when your relationships reflect the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. And as you continue your journey, remember this: you do not need perfect people. You simply need people who are willing to grow. People who can look inward when things go wrong. People who can love without controlling. Support without competing. Care without conditions. And stay without games. Choose people who bring clarity, not confusion. Choose people who bring peace, not chaos. Choose people who help you become the strongest, calmest, most authentic version of yourself. Because in the end, the relationships you build will shape the life you live. And you deserve a life filled with people who reflect the beauty of your growth, the strength of your heart, and the truth of your worth.